You were live.
All right, perfect. So today is March 23rd, and this is the HR committee meeting. Present, we have Mark, Nancy, and myself. And I know there are probably multiple things that we need to talk about today during the meeting. One of those definitely is going to be listing out of projects that we need to really focus on for 2023. But before we go into that, because that might take some time, you want to do a roundtable and just kind of,
You've got your minutes from the last meeting you had. Those need to be approved.
okay, perfect, thank you. So before we do any type of roundtable or go into the topic at hand, you guys have the meeting minutes in front of you. Take a look at those and
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
It says on the bottom of those, next meeting, June 15th. And the date on that one is May 25th.
I think it got canceled and we never.
Yeah.
what did I say?
Oh, it's been a long time.
Okay, that's cool. I just want to be sure.
Yeah, no, I think that's accurate.
Okay. Okay, I'll make a motion. I know you got to read that probably, but I'll make that motion.
I'll second it.
The motion has properly been made by Mark and seconded by Nancy to approve the meeting minutes. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Yes.
Any opposed? Motion passes. So then we have to name a new chair.
And that was what I was going to do. Next, I'd like to make a motion for Kelly Cornett to be the chair of this committee.
I second that.
A motion has properly been made that Kelly Cornett is the chair of the committee.
Yes.
Kelly Cornett, do you accept that responsibility? Yes. Sure.
Oh, gosh, I forgot to ask.
Yeah, you forgot to ask. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. All right. So, do you want to do roundtable? Because I know, Mark, you have some items to discuss.
Well, I went through this book and most of what I had to say was addressed. We need to do that Lexipol thing, and that's currently underway. Art, do you want to expand on that for the public?
Yes, you guys gave me permission to move forward with Lexipol, and one of the big things that they do are HR manuals. And I am getting ready. I'm doing some training this weekend over this, and then probably next week I will submit our handbook, and they will start comparing our handbook to state and federal law. And then they will also start comparing it to best practices. And once that is finished, I will bring you a copy of what they've come up with, and then we start making changes. We submit it back to Lexipol. They will make changes in it, and then they will send our employees quizzes on the handbook, like a weekly or monthly quiz on the handbook. And then anytime we make a change to it, they will send out a quiz to all the employees, and they have to sign acknowledgement forms online that say they've read those policies and have received a handbook, and that's going to help us a lot.
And the new job descriptions and that aren't in this current book are the tax commissioner, fire EMS, Brian Fott's job, whatever that title is, click, zoning.
Yes,
Am
we
I
will.
forgetting anything?
And mine.
You're not in this book?
I don't think so.
Okay. I just want to make it clear to the public what's going to be in the book.
Yeah, that'll be in the book.
Also, I would like to institute a time clock system for hourly employees of this place. It's not that I don't trust any specific person, but I don't trust people. I've always worked in a place with a time clock, and it just helps so people can't cheat the system. And where I work is for a private business where I'm not actually working for the taxpayer. Because if someone comes in late and they get paid the full amount, then they're cheating the taxpayer, which I have a real problem with. But That's why I want to institute a time clock. And I don't know how to go about this now, but that's my thoughts. That's all I gotta say, Kelly.
All right. Art, can you give us some feedback on a time clock from your perspective?
Well, I will tell you that, especially here, our employees, I know, don't try to cheat our time. And here's the opposite, the other side of that spectrum, Mark. If I call these guys at 3 minutes till 4 and I say, can you run over and check a possible water leak? Typically, they will run and check that water leak and stay over work and never charge us for it. You know, they don't write it on their timesheets. Same with the girls in the office, the same in the back. They all come in beforehand and they leave most of the time after they are supposed to clock out. Now, I'm not arguing with you about a time clock if that's what this committee decides to do. I know how to implement it, but we do watch it real well. And I will be honest with you, I have found a couple people over the years, it's not something that happens all the time, but I took care of the issue and it hasn't happened again.
My only concern is I don't want the taxpayers getting it, and I certainly don't want the employees getting screwed on time. The taxpayers is one issue. I don't want them getting screwed, but the employees getting screwed, I definitely don't want.
They don't get screwed.
I think a time clock would solve the whole issue.
I don't know that there's even an issue.
Well, if someone's working extra and not reporting the time, then the employee's getting screwed.
No,
Well, I
that's
think-
not true because they could report the time. It's usually something minor like running over and sticking a chlorine tablet in a mud puddle to see if it's a water leak or if it's just a mud puddle.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying that I would never let anybody stay here and work hours on hours without getting paid. I agree with you on that, but I'm just
Okay.
saying that the guys will do little things like that. Or if they're not finished in the office with something, they'll stay here an extra 5 minutes to get it done before they leave. That's what I'm saying.
Okay, that's cool.
Yeah, and I don't know where I stood on the time clock prior to this necessarily, if I felt strongly one way or the other. I will say, as I was hearing you talk, Art, I was kind of cringing, just my HR hat came on there for a minute. Because the problem with employees staying after hours, even though they're doing the right thing, right? By us, they're going and doing something and then not getting charged for it. It takes that one disgruntled employee down the road to come back and say, I worked this many hours over and the Village of Georgetown never paid me for it.
They have to sign a time sheet every week, so they put their hours down.
Yeah.
whatever.
Right. But I'm saying, but if they, like his example that he just used, like if they go and check a pipe over at 5 minutes till 4 and they end up working till 10 after 4, but they put 4 o'clock or whatever they put, it truly, and I know we have a smaller environment here, but in a larger environment that I've been exposed to, that is a real issue if they're not tracking their time properly and you know it and you're allowing it. That one disgruntled employee down the road could always come back and say, I worked X amount of time for the village and they never paid me. And that's a lawsuit.
But they
That
have to certify their own timesheets.
doesn't matter.
And I don't know it all the time. I mean, it's not something that happens.
I'm just saying, I just threw that
Yeah.
out there.
Yeah,
I
I
was like,
understand. I understand where you're coming from, but
was
it's not,
hearing.
no, this doesn't happen very often at all. I'm just saying, I don't believe anybody's going to cheat us time. And I do watch that. And I think all the supervisors watch that pretty well. We're small enough that if somebody doesn't show up for work, you know it.
Yeah. How do you feel, Nancy?
I'm kind of like you. I think it's probably the right thing, but I don't think it's a problem. And if it's not a problem, you know, we have other things to deal with that we know are problems. I see what Mark's saying. I see what Art is saying. I just think, you know, the police are probably, the police and fire are the largest departments. The other departments have, what, 2, 3, 5 employees. They know what time those guys get there and what time they leave. You know,
Because they're on shift. And if they're not there, they're, you know, that they definitely would be known because they're relieving another shift when they come in.
no, I was just saying they're the biggest ones. The rest of them have so few employees,
Yes.
maybe 1, 2, 3, maybe 4,
Yeah.
that the supervisor, they're not trying to cover 50 people,
So in the,
that they would know.
may I speak? Are
Absolutely.
you done? I'm sorry.
No,
if I
I'm
interrupted
finished.
You. In this book, it says about tardiness, about rounding to the nearest 15th. Well, if you round to the nearest 15th, then either the taxpayer's getting screwed or the employee's getting screwed. Because if they come in at 8:10, they're going to be rounded at 8:15. Therefore, the employee's getting screwed out of 5 minutes. See what I'm saying?
Well, everywhere I've worked, even if you
I'm-
clock in, all the policies where I've worked, you had to round to the next quarter hour.
Okay, I'm just saying with everything I know about time clocks,
Yeah.
it would solve the issue, but that's just me.
And
So
I'm not fighting against time clock. If that's what you guys decide is best, and then, I know
So-
how to implement it, but
what happens if a person gets hurt at, let's say, 8:11, but they're not actually clocked in until 8:15? Then how would workers' comp cover that? Because they're not actually on the time clock.
workers' comp will technically cover you on your way to work if you're on your way to work.
I don't know.
They do in fire and EMS.
Yeah.
Know that for a fact.
I don't, I mean, honestly,
I just don't want somebody I'm sorry, Kelly.
no, you go right ahead, Mark.
I just don't want the taxpayers getting screwed, and I certainly don't want the employees getting screwed.
I don't either. That's why I look out so hard for it. I wouldn't let anything happen to screw the taxpayer, and I don't want to screw the employees either. I definitely don't want that. I'm with you on that.
I kind of like to wait to see what Lexipol says
Yes, pretty much what I was.
and then go from there,
We'll
kind
go
of
with that.
put this on the back burner and see
We'll
what
go
they
with that.
say.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking too. See what they come back with, and then we can make amends then if we want to change the 5-minute rule or the quarter of an hour rule, whatever it is.
Aside from that, from my part of the round table, under holidays on page 13, Juneteenth needs to be in here. But I'm sure that'll be in the Lexipol report. I think that's it. Well, I've got questions about hourly employees versus salary employees, but I guess we'll get to that later.
Yeah, it's hard to tell on here. the
Is
way
it
they
not
do
spelled out
things.
in there? Is it
Huh?
not spelled out in there?
No, it's not that. It's just, you ask for salaries, and even if they're salaried, they give you an hour rate. It's very confusing.
Well, and here's my point. If we're gonna not make people clock in and clock out, then everyone should be a salaried employee.
Not by definition. It can't be. Definition. First of all, definition of a salary employee is you do the job until the job is done. Second definition rolls back to a management position or a defined manager of a linear department, something of that nature. Those two things define what a salary employee is.
And maybe I just said what I said to get that out in the public so I didn't have to say it. When a salaried employee is paid a salary, they're paid to get the job done, whether that's 40 hours or whether that's 70 hours.
Absolutely.
You don't quit at just 40 hours just because it's 40 hours is up. Damn it, work. Anyway, that's all I gotta say.
Who are salaried employees in this village?
Me, Natalie, Joey,
Braylon,
Rob.
is that it?
That's it.
Catherine, I guess.
Well, technically,
no,
she would
she's-
be, I guess, considered that too. Yeah, she's part-time, but
She's
contractual.
She's
yeah, she's
contractual.
Natalie's not?
No,
Oh, you
Nat-
did say Natalie.
Natalie. So Natalie, Art,
There's Joey and Rob.
Joey, and Rob.
And Catherine.
Catherine is not a salary
She's
employee.
contractual.
Contractual. She's not salary. Okay.
I'm sure we'll get back into that salary thing later.
Okay. All right.
Aside from that, I'm done.
You're finished. Cool.
Well, I kind of holding off for the Lexipol. And when that's done, we can go through that and make changes if we want to. And
You
they'll.
guys will have logins too, and
then we can
we'll
go
be
in.
able to submit ideas. Those of us that are okay to
Okay.
do so can submit ideas on what we want to see in there. But yes, you'll get a digital copy of it, and then we can read it and start making changes.
Anything from your perspective, Nancy, that you wanted to cover from a roundtable standpoint? And then we can go into the project of developing our priorities for the year.
Um, I don't think so. I think probably at some point we need to update the ethics code of elected officials, but I don't think that's a pressing thing or that, but.
So then do we want to roll into anything, before I do that, anything, Art, from your chair for the HR committee?
Well, I think after I get this electric poll thing set up, I think then we'll have a lot of stuff to talk about, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So then do we want to roll into the priority listing of items that we need to discuss, define, work on this year for the HR committee? Does that go with you guys? Yeah, okay. So then that requires participation.
Okay, I want it definitely stated the difference between an hourly employee and a salaried employee. And what exactly is expected from a salaried employee?
Are you asking or just saying?
No, I want this addressed
As a project or address right now?
as a project.
Okay, just making sure. Remember, I haven't had food.
Okay, because, you know, if people don't clock in and clock out, how are we, figuring out their overtime, their comp time, their bank time, which if you're a salaried employee, I don't agree with any of it, none of it.
Can we, because I think I need a good understanding of that too. Maybe can we come back to that? And maybe that'll be what we talk about here during our time here
Okay.
after, but I got it down as a priority listing.
If you're a salaried employee, there is no bank time, comp time, whatever bullshit. I'm sorry, I cursed again. I feel very strongly about salaried employees. There is no bank time or comp time. You're paid a salary, do your job, work.
There is bank time, Mark. There is banked time. They don't get comp time, they get bank time.
Why?
They can't work 90 hours every week, Mark.
They're getting a salary, Dale.
That's right, they are, but they're not expected to work.
But
their
like
entire
she just said, that's for a salaried employee that you're expected to get the job done. And I think I look at it this way. Yes, I could leave here. I could probably get my job done with as much as I work at home. I could probably get my job done in this office in a 4-day week, but we don't do that. If I work 50 hours this week, if I take off a couple hours next week, I don't feel guilty about that. And I think that's what Joey and Rob do, I believe. Well, I know it is Joey. Joey works all night long. That man gets up and makes squad runs and fire runs all night long, 7 days a week. And he doesn't track his time like that, but he knows, I worked this many hours last week. I'm going to take Tuesday off and go spend it with my family because he works 7 days a week.
I guess it's different in the private sector. Well, I know it's different in the private sector. I just know it's different in the private sector. When you're a salaried employee, they don't care how much you work as long as the job gets done, and you get no comp time.
Yeah, I think for me, maybe we can drill down on the comp time and better understand that because I don't have a real solid understanding, but maybe we can come back to
The
that.
the hourlies are entitled to comp time.
But the salaries are not.
No, they do bank time. If
They track. I mean, like Joey will work 75 hours and he'll write down that he worked 75 hours this week. And then maybe next week he wants to take a few hours off. He'll just take a few hours off and tell you, I'm going to be off. I worked this many hours last week, and he tracks that. It's not comp time, because comp time would be required to be paid at 1.5 times their wage. It'd be the same as overtime. And the guys the hourlies that get comp time, we only allow them to bank so much, and then we have to buy that out. We have to pay them out for that. We don't do any of that for the salary people. They don't get paid out for any time.
Why are they writing down? Why is Joey writing down his time? 'Cause
Because he feels like he wants to track it in case anybody ever asks. He feels like that's the right thing to do to the,
You turn
to
it
the
in.
taxpayer. No, he just keeps it.
Rob does. He writes his down.
Rob writes his down. They just do that for their own, because they just feel like they want to keep track of their hours.
That's a liability.
If they're turning in a timesheet to.
They're not turning in a time sheet.
So I'm trying to understand the difference between a salaried employee who works for the village and a salaried employee who works for, let's say, a private business. A salaried employee who works for a private business can work 90 hours a week. There is no comp time, no extra off time, but yet there is for if you work for the village. I don't get that.
It's not comp time, Mark. It's them keeping track of, if they work 100 hours this week, they may take a day off next week. It's not comp time. It's nothing based on their pay or anything like that. It's them trying to be fair to themselves and their family and fair to the taxpayer in the village. They don't, they could easily say, under the full-time rule that it's a job until you get your job done. Well, anybody could easily say, well, I got my job done in 40 hours and be done, or 45 hours and be done, but they don't. They get up and they make their runs and they do their work. They're not getting any extra pay for taking that day off or anything. They're still salaried. They're getting paid the same exact thing.
So there is a difference between a private job and the village job.
No, there's not. A private
Yeah,
job,
there
normally
is,
you work
because
5 days a week.
No, not if your salary, you work until you're done, period.
Exactly, which could be 30 hours, but our guys work a minimum of 40 hours a week unless they worked 100 hours this week, then they might take a day off next week. It's something they don't do every day.
And I'm telling you that when I was on a salary, I was required minimum 45 hours a week. I was pulling 90 hours a week. I got no extra comp time, bank time, whatever, none. So there is a difference between this job and a private job, because I was required to work 45 hours a week. There was no, and I was working, I swear to God, 90 hours, 7 days a week, 90 hours. I had 2 days off in like 2 months. And I got no bank time, no comp time, nothing. So I guess there is a difference between this job and a private job.
I will say I'm confused on it. It's been one of those curiosities for me that I've wanted to figure out. I think maybe we can have some larger discussion, but I think why don't we for now put it on the priority list? And then if we can get through our list of items, then we can come back and maybe dissect it before the end of the meeting. And if not, we'll make it a part of the next meeting that we have. Is that okay?
With that being said, I don't know if we can go in executive session about the employment compensation of an employee, but I would like to go in executive session over the employment compensation of an employee, whatever number that is.
Is that something that a committee can do? I'm not sure.
Oh, yeah.
Can go into.
Yeah.
To discuss an employee?
I think so. We've
Yeah,
done
I
it
think so
before.
too. It's the same rules for committee it is for council.
Do we have so you want to go into executive session now?
Yes,
Okay. Does anybody have the codes? I probably have them. Hold on, Mark.
I don't know the number.
Hold on, I'll find it. I got it somewhere.
You're a man, Art.
Okay. So Mark, will you write this down?
Yeah.
ORC section
ORC section.
Or don't go too far because we got to stop the video. Okay. ORC section 121.22 G1 to discuss the compensation of a public employee. So make your motion with that.
Is that what you're gonna talk about, is compensation, or you wanted to?
Employment,
Yeah, I was gonna say.
compensation or employment. I think it's the same number.
Or any other matters
Or,
provided by law. I don't know what it is.
okay, I make a motion under ORC section 121.22 G1 to discuss compensation or employment of an employee.
Made, is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion has been made and properly seconded by Nancy to go into executive session by Mark. All those in favor state so by saying aye.
Yes.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. We just need to stop the video.
I know, just hit the go over to you.
Is that all?
Hold on a second.
Wait for him to confirm.